Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second segment on Harry Potter's The Philosopher's Stone. And this is a longer passage that we're going to cover this time together with Daniela, who will be our guest reader and translator. But as I read the sentence out loud, she'll repeat after me, and then please repeat along with her to get a sense of the sound and the flow of the sentences. And then I'll ask her questions from time to time, and please try to think about, imagine yourselves what the answers would be, so we can sort of deconstruct the sentences together. One idea or one procedure, if you're interested, is the whole text for the week, for all 5 days, all 5 segments should be available on Monday, and then you could take a look at that and try to translate it in advance of the sessions if you wanted to do it that way as a learning approach. Okay, so let's, without further ado, let's dig into this. This is the second paragraph, and it's a little bit longer, so I think we should get through it hopefully in about 12 minutes. Let's read from the beginning. So here we go. Die Dursleys besaßen alles, was sie wollten. Everybody?
Alles, was sie wollten.
Sorry for that noise in the background. Doch sie hatten auch ein Geheimnis, und dass es jemand aufdecken könnte, war ihre größte Sorge. Everybody?
Doch sie hatten auch ein Geheimnis, und dass es jemand aufdecken könnte, war ihre größte Sorge.
Okay, let's see. Verb complex up to the comma. I mean, just a verb.
Besaßen.
Besaßen, that comes from besitzen, so this is a strong verb, and that means, with a pronoun,
They possessed.
they possessed. Good. And this is a direct object here. Die Dursleys, obviously the subject. And then alles so alles is indeterminate as a antecedent. So was is often used as the relative pronoun with its antecedent as being alles. You often will see this pair. They possessed everything what they wanted, except so. Yet, then where's the verb here? In the next part?
Hatten.
Hatten. Good. And what's the direct object?
Geheimnis.
Yeah, I should ask for the subject second, which is here. They had. And what gender is Geheimnis? And how can you tell? It's a direct object.
It is masculine.
It's neuter because it's ein Geheimnis. If it were masculine, it would be einen Geheimnis, and if it were feminine, it would be eine Frau. It would be something like that. Okay, let's see. And yet they had also a secret. And then what's the verb up to this comma for complex?
Aufdecken könnte.
Yeah, so decken is to cover, aufdecken is to uncover. So they and it could uncover. What's the subject?
Jemand.
Jemand, yeah. So and that someone or any means anybody, and if someone could uncover it, and S refers back to the Geheimnis. Now notice that this has to agree with its antecedent, which is right up here. Sorry for all the arrows, but it's S. If this were masculine, it would be in, and feminine it would be Z. Okay, so was their greatest concern. You want to do that whole sentence up to that point, please, Daniela?
The Dursleys possessed everything which they wanted, yet they also had a secret. And if anyone could uncover it, was their greatest concern.
Mm-hmm. Or you could say, and should anyone be able to, or something like that, or could someone uncover it? That was their greatest concern. Great. Okay. I'm just going to erase some of this as we go through so it's easier to read. So let's go on. Einfach unerträglich wäre es, wenn die Sache mit den Potters herauskommen würde. Everybody?
Einfach unerträglich wäre es, wenn die Sache mit den Potters herauskommen würde.
Okay, trage means to carry, so unerträglich is unbearable. And this is an adverb, simply unbearable. And then what mood is this? Wäre?
Subjunctive.
Subjunctive. What would it be in the indicative?
var.
Just var, yeah. So it would be, you always translate it that way, it would be simply unbearable. And then wenn is either temporal when or if. What do you think it is here?
If
If, yeah, yeah. If the matter, die Sache, would leak out or come out or leak out with the potters. Notice dative plural normally requires this is the dative plural with because mit takes the dative, and normally you have an n on the noun. But if you have a proper noun, like you have the word potter, the name of the family, then you don't tack the n on the end, only to other nouns that are not proper ones. Okay, let's go on. Mrs. Potter, I always like the way they do it. Mrs. Potter war die Schwester von Mrs. Dursley. Everybody?
Mrs. Potter war die Schwester von Mrs. Dursley,
Doch die beiden hatten sich schon seit etlichen Jahren nicht mehr gesehen.
doch die beiden hatten sich schon seit etlichen Jahren nicht mehr gesehen.
Okay, Schwester is sister, so you want to just translate that first little one? Pretty simple.
Mrs. Potter was the sister of Mrs. Dursley.
Good. Yet the two, and where's the verb complex in the next, after the semicolon?
Hatten sich gesehen.
Good, good. Notice that Daniela picks up the reflexive, which is part of the verb complex. So they had no longer, I'm picking up this nicht mehr, they had no longer seen themselves. So remember, you include the sich in your first go around, in your first go, as they say, in translating, and then to see if it's necessary for the translation, you can either drop it or keep it. Okay, so the two, so Mrs. Dursley and her sister had no longer seen themselves, and then since many years. Already, emphasize it a little bit more. Okay, let's go. And when we get about halfway down this paragraph, Daniel, if you would translate like the half, and then we'll do the next half. Okay. Just one second. Okay, Mrs. Dursley, going on here, behauptete sogar, dass sie gar keine Schwester hätte, denn diese und deren Nichtsnutz von einem Mann waren so undurchsichthaft, wie man es sich nur denken könnte. Go ahead.
Mrs. Dursley behauptete sogar, dass sie gar keine Schwester hätte, denn diese und deren Nichtsnutz von einem Mann waren so undurchsichtig, wie man es sich nur denken konnte.
Oh, okay, so Mrs. Dursley maintained even, behauptete, weak verb with a te tacked on, that she, referring to Mrs. Dursley, had. Now this is a subjunctive, isn't it right, Daniela?
Yes.
So this is indirect speech because she's maintaining something. It's not a factual statement, but maintains or believes or holds the opinion. That's why this goes into the subjunctive. However, in this case, English doesn't have to use that because it's that you don't have to render it in the subjunctive. It's only because of this grammatical issue that she indeed did not did not have or did not have a sister. For this now diese you have diese and jene. Jene refers to the one further away, which would be the former, and diese is actually refers to the latter, the one that's closer, which is the sister. So this refers back to the sister, and this one, the sister, and her, deren, nicht nutz. Nutz means useful and means nothing useful. Nothing useful for a man. We're so, and then this is like undurstly, so undurstly like. And then how would you finish that sentence, Viman?
Um, like or how as or sorry, as one could only imagine it.
Yeah, as one could only think of it. Now here, you don't have to include the seek, otherwise it would be as one could think oneself. So actually, sich denken is the infinitive for to imagine, to think oneself of a certain about something. But in this case, you don't have to translate the reflexive. Okay, so let's see. Why don't you start right here, if you will, Daniela, from Miss Dursley, and go down to here at this point. Well, in
Uh,
fact, why don't you do the whole thing, the first half, like we said. Start from the top and go down to this part to sort of get the flow, and maybe you can all follow it. Go ahead.
okay. The Dursleys possessed everything which they wanted, yet they also had a secret, and if anyone could uncover it was their greatest concern.
Okay, slow down a little bit.
Simply,
Slow down a little bit. Go ahead.
simply unbearable would it be if the matter with the Potters would come out.
Mhm.
Mrs. Potter was the sister of Mrs. Dursley, yet the two had no longer seen each other for several years. Mrs. Dursley even claimed that she had no sister at all, for the latter and her good-for-nothing of a man were so un-Dursley-like as one could only think of it.
Or as one could only imagine, you could do it that way as well. Good. Very nicely done. Good. Okay. Let's go on from here. Die Dursleys schauderten beim Gedanken daran, was die Nachbarn sagen würden, sollten die Potters eines Tages in ihrer Straße aufkreuzen. Okay. Um, just repeat, please. Die Dursleys.
Die Dursleys schauderten beim Gedanken daran, was die Nachbarn sagen würden, sollten die Potters eines Tages in ihrer Straße aufkreuzen.
Thank you for reading that with such a nice pace, because I'm hoping that everybody will read directly along with Daniela, and to get a feel of how the sentences are sort of uh, opening up and becoming clear to you. So this means to shudder, to be frightened. So the Dursleys shuddered, past tense, at the thought of the thought about that daran. Here's one of those dar compounds, which you can either translate or not, but it basically is a connective and it anticipates what's coming next, or it raises your interest to think what will follow. So the Dursleys shuddered by thinking about that. What the neighbors, die Nachbarn, then what's the verb complex there?
Sagen würden.
Sagen würden. Good. Um, now, what about this following here? Not, what the neighbors would say is what that means. And Sultan, what sort of a mood is that, or not mood, but is that conditional, or is it, how would you phrase that?
Um, I would say it's conditional.
Yeah. And where's the verb complex after the comma in that sentence?
So it's Sultan aufkreuzen.
Okay, aufkreuzen means literally to cross up, but it really means to show up, and to show up, to drive into their street or to show up at their street. Okay, should, but literally should the Potters show up. Um, but most appropriately, you would put that into a conditional sentence. Should, or if the Potters. Then you want to translate the rest of that? Should, if
So
the
so should the Potters one day drive up in their street?
in their street, yeah, if they should show up one day in their street. Eines Tages is a genitive case which indicates time when. Okay, let's go on. Die Dursleys wussten, everybody,
Die Dursleys wussten,
dass auch die Potters einen kleinen Sohn hatten. Uh-oh.
dass auch die Potters einen kleinen Sohn hatten.
Doch den hatten sie nie gesehen.
Doch den hatten sie nie gesehen.
This is kind of funny. So the Dursleys knew that the Potters had a son, but they had never seen him, right? So, okay. So where's the main clause in that sentence?
Die Dursleys wussten.
Good. Yeah. So das is a subordinating conjunction that always introduces a subordinate clause, and for that reason, you have the verb at the end of the clause. So that's the telltale or the sign that this is a subordinate clause. Okay. That the Potters also, and then had. What gender is son? It's obvious.
Masculine.
Masculine. Okay. Well, okay, but you have einen here. If this were feminine would be eine, and then neuter would be just ein. So the gender and the case are both equally important for determining the ending of these adjectives. Yet, doch, and then what is this Dane? First of all, what's the verb complex after doch, after this comma?
Hatten gesehen.
Yeah, and what tense is that?
Uh, past.
Past, it's pluperfect tense. They had seen. So that also the Potters had a small son, yet they had never seen him. Now, Dane, you would normally expect IHN, standing for him, but Dane is what they call the demonstrative pronoun, and it's a little bit more of a vivid emphasis. And they had not seen, oh, that one over there, sort of almost slightly sarcastic tinge to it. Okay, let's go on. Auch dieser Junge war ein guter Grund, everybody,
Auch dieser Junge war ein guter Grund,
sich von den Potters fernzuhalten.
sich von den Potters fernzuhalten.
So you have the verb here we've had before. It was, and subject is what?
Junge.
Junge. And here's a predicate noun that the young boy was a reason. It really means ground, but a reason for something, doing something. And then here's a complementary infinitive. To maintain oneself, which it probably will include this time in the translation. To maintain oneself at a distance. Fern means distant. Okay. You want to translate that sentence?
So also this young boy was a good reason to maintain their distance from the Potters.
Good, that's right, good, from the Potters. Mit einem solchen Kind sollte Dudley nicht in Berührung kommen. This means in contact. And sorry, sollte, he should come, not come. Just translate that a little bit.
Mit einem solchen Kind sollte ihr Dudley nicht in Berührung kommen.
Great. So let's do the whole thing for the flow. We're not going to go, Daniela already translated down to here. I'm going to erase some of this so we can see it. So if you want to translate from here to the end of the paragraph, that'd be great, just to kind of get the flow, and hopefully you can all follow after that. Sort of a little excursus into the grammar. So go ahead, die Dursleys.
The Dursleys shuddered at the thought about that, what the neighbors would say should the Potters one day drive up in their street.
Mhm.
The Dursleys knew that the Potters also had a small son, yet whom they had never seen.
Great.
Also, this young boy was a good reason to maintain their distance from the Potters. Their Dudley should not come into contact with such a child.
Okay, so Daniela nicely picked up this first. You could really say, with such a child, should their Dudley not come in contact. But more smoothly would be, just as you did it, their Dudley should not come in contact with such a child. Right. Okay. All right. Great. Well, again, this is even though it's a funny story, very amusing, but it's also very proper German, and it's written in a high German level. So it's a great way to maintain your German and to expand it. Lots of vocabulary and everything. So join us again for the next session, which will continue into the next paragraph. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.